Good morning, everyone. Welcome back. Thank you so much for joining me. This is Donna Sharp. I am your transformational wellness life coach. It's such a pleasure to be here this morning, and I wanted to just take a moment to again pray that you all had a fantastic day today. Let me not go on and have it unsaid that sometimes we take for granted what we're going through in life, and I just want to be the first, if I was today, just to express a little bit of encouragement to let you know that every day that we live our lives, it doesn't come with ease. And when you pull through and you've actually overcome those hurdles in life that sometimes you're wondering, how did I even get here? What they're doing is propelling you into a better space. So be encouraged. I do pray and trust that you had a fantastic day today and you are looking forward to an even better day tomorrow. All right. So I am your transformational wellness coach, and part of what I do is I teach individuals on how to care for themselves, and it can be from a level of understanding your mind. A lot of people, I have to tell you, really don't have too much control over their mind. All right. And I don't say that in a bad way. I just understand that a lot of times people are leveraging above the ground, and they don't necessarily, they're not grounded enough to really understand where they are from one day to the next. And so if there's nothing else I can teach you with all these lives that I've done, it would be to just find a place of peace in your heart. All right. And when you find that the world is upside down and things are just shaking up and falling apart around you, as long as you have that peace that surpasses all understanding, you will be able to find your way through that cloud. That sunshine that you're always looking for, it's right between the clouds, but you have to work towards it. All right. So I teach individuals how to not only take care of their mind, but also how to care for their body physically and also from a nutritional standpoint internally. And so I'm very passionate about that. The experience that I've had over the past several years has really allotted me the expertise to be able to share valuable things with you if you allow me to do so. In the meantime, what I'm going to be doing tonight is continuing from the book, Three Steps to a Strong Family, and it's by Stephen Covey. And he teaches various things that really helps us to guide our children through this process and gain a better understanding of what do we need to lay as far as a foundation to be able to be on the same track with them and teach them the way to go. And I'm speaking on children because they are our next generation. And with everything that we're doing right now, if you think that everything is going to remain the same way that you think it was before, you're in for a rude awakening. These children are going to be faced with so many things that we are not privy to. And what's going to happen is they're going to have to make their way through the process and recognize, how do I maneuver myself, navigate myself around to get to where I really want to go? So that's a great segue in the topic that I'm speaking on tonight, and it's on decision making. I'm going to just cover some brief things with you. Then I'm going to read a dialogue that's going to give you an idea to understand a communication that an adult has with a child and the thought process that the child goes through as far as trying to understand as a parent themselves is trying to make it clear enough to them so they understand the next step that they need to make. All right. So first, let me say the final element of creating a good family is a good legal system. And this section tonight is the final section that talks about why is it important to make great decisions and create the structure that you need to create for a family legal system. So this goes beyond the laws of life. If we can teach our children how to make better decisions, where would we all be? Not just the children. How much better would we be as parents, and how much better would they be as children, right? So teaching them the right decisions are going to be very essential, because sometimes in their innocent minds, they always try to figure out, well, what step do I take next? Or they may have made up their mind on a step to take next, but they're very reluctant because they don't understand what's going to come behind it or what's going to come in front of it, right? So being that safety net, so to speak, as we mature and we have all the wisdom that we need to have throughout life, then it encourages them to take another step and another step. But we have to be we have to ease them into it and not be too much on them, as I spoke about yesterday in the disciplinary process of parenthood, right? So if we can teach our children how to make decisions, right? how to figure out what's right from wrong. And remember, it's not just, I mean, you may think it's just a straightforward explanation and it's so easy, but they're gray areas. And sometimes they seek understanding. So you have to understand how to have this dialogue and conversation with them, right? Or how do we help them to select the best options to make, the next step to make, the next move to make? Well, we will help them. Number one, if we do all three of those items, we'll help them to avoid penalties of breaking the law, right? And the second thing is we'll also assist them with harsh consequences of making wrong choices. So the easiest decisions in life are governed by laws, and you guys know many of them. If you run the red light, what will happen, right? If you park in the wrong spot, what will happen? If you don't take care of your license fees when you're supposed to, what will happen? So there's many things that we have to do, not only as children, but also as adults, that once we understand those laws and we follow them, then we're on the right track. It's when we go against that, then we're wondering, well, what happened? So it helps them to avoid any penalties of breaking a law, right? Of course, another example would be if they do something wrong, what is going to happen to them? Are they going to get a slap on the wrist by the police force? I don't think so. So really, really making it very clear to them that there are rules and guidelines that we have to follow. And as long as we're in those boundaries, then it really helps them to figure out the more important things of life that needs to really concern them as far as development and growth from a youngster to an adolescent to an adult. Okay. The second thing is it also helps them to handle any kind of harsh consequences for any wrong choices that they make. I do understand that as parents, you are going to be there for your children through thick and thin. And some of you may say, listen, if something wrong happens to you, I'm not going to be there to help you, to bail you out. But the question is, have you taught them exactly what they need to learn so that when they face these consequences, they think twice before even doing it, right? That's just my question to you. So be careful of what you're telling them you're going to do and you're not going to do if the support system was not there all along as they were growing up in your household, all right? So the easiest decisions in life, as I mentioned, those that are governed by laws would be very easy because the only real decision is to follow the rule or not follow the rule, right? So as I mentioned, if you run a red light or you have a family rule or the law of gravity, these decisions are binary, right? So you keep it or you break it, either one. And what happens? The consequences are typically clear. You run a red light, you're going to know exactly what's going to happen. So there's not going to be any question in your mind. Now, of course, people run the red light and they think nothing of it, but what they're doing is placing other people's lives in jeopardy. All right. So why is this important? It allows small children to be able to differentiate between situations governed by the laws. And the second thing is it allows situations to be governed by decisions. All right. The best way to teach small children this particular dialogue, when I say small children, I'm speaking about children that are in kindergarten, in grade school, not necessarily the adolescents. We'll speak on that tomorrow, is by giving them a particular example. And what I'd like to do is just read a dialogue to you, because what this is going to do is help you to see the conversation between a parent and a child. And it's going to also, it's going to open your eyes as to how their innocent minds think and exactly how the parent controls the conversation and what the child really gets out of that dialogue. Because when you don't give them solid examples, that's when it makes it a little bit difficult for them. As I mentioned, a lot of people learn differently. Some people are very visual, some people are very audible, or some people are both. So when you're allowing really clear explanation and examples, then the child can actually fall back and pull those examples and say, you know what, I remember 5 years ago when my parents did this, and this is the decision I made because of it. So here's a dialogue that I wanted to share with you, and it's just a straight dialogue between a parent and a child. And remember, I'm referencing directly from Stephen Covey's book, in case you'd like to go and pick up a copy so that you can use this in your household as it pertains to developing that governing family law rules at your home to help establish a better relationship between parents and the children in the household. All right. So here's the parent. Okay, you know what? laws are, right? The child says, prompted as necessary. Things that we should follow, and if we don't, we will have punishments or problems. Parent, yes, sometimes they are called values, sometimes they're called laws. There are two things that you can do with a law. You can keep it or you can break it. If you keep a law, you'll be happier. What are some of the laws you can think of? The child says, especially if you've just worked on your family laws, and these were the items we spoke about during the past week, all right, such as peace and order. The parent says, right. There are family laws and there are punishments when we don't keep them, right? The child says, unless we repent. Exactly. And we're happier in our family if we keep these laws. Now, are there any other kinds of laws? Do we have some laws in our own town or in our country? The child says, promote it as necessary. Wear seatbelts, don't drive too fast, don't take things that belongs to other people. And the parent says, and there are punishments if we break those laws, right? You could get hurt, the child says, or you could get arrested. The parent says, yes, that's right. You really do understand about laws. Does nature have any laws? The child says, the law of gravity, the law that when it's winter, you will be cold outside unless you wear a coat. The parent says, any punishment for breaking these? The child says, you could fall down or you could freeze. The parent says, is there a law for anything, for everything? The child is unsure. Well, the parent says, there's a law that tells us what the color of shirt, what color of shirt we have to wear, or what movie to go to, or what sport we have to like. The child says no. The parent, well, when there isn't a law, what can we do? We can choose. Right. We can choose, we can make choice. Do you know another name for a choice? The child says a decision. Some decisions don't matter very much, like whether you have orange juice or apple juice or breakfast, but some decisions matter a lot. Can you think of some? The child says. If you eat healthy or just eat candy, if you are nice to everyone or just to your friends, if you do your best at school or just fool around. The parent says, do decisions make a difference? Yes, there are punishments or problems when we make bad decisions, just like we can break the laws. So that's just a simple dialogue to show you where the child's mind is. And especially if you've laid the foundation with them, as we mentioned this entire week, as I've been speaking from this book, then you'll find out that they're going to pick up tidbits that you're going to use as examples in their own lifestyle. They'll start to mimic what you're saying, especially the great choices that you've made with them, and then they're going to take it into their adolescent phases. And I'll speak on the adolescence phase tomorrow. But I'll tell you in conclusion that giving your children scenarios like this, it really paints a very clear picture for them so they have an understanding of what to do next, right? Sometimes for them, it may be a simple yes or no response, or it may be a situation that takes more thinking. And when their mind is not fully developed, it's going to pull and take a little bit more effort on their part. So by you assisting them as their parents, they're going to trust you more, and they're going to see that you're relinquishing that, you don't want to do that dictatorship that we spoke about, but getting them involved in those decision-making process. Because by allowing them to make those decisions, they'll be able to fall down and get up and fall down and get up. You know what happened when they were children, right? You tried to teach them to walk and they fall down. And you want so bad for them to learn. So you're assisting them along, but when you let that hand go, what you're doing is you're giving them that guidance and that motivation to say, you know what, I can take one more step. And eventually what happens? The child begins to walk. You assisted them in the beginning for a short while, but after all, they figure out how this whole thing works, and they end up taking those steps on their own, and they graduate into a whole nother level of life. So what this does basically, in addition to that, is place them in a real life situation, which basically allows them to understand the dynamics of what we call the real world. But then in our real world, as I mentioned, sometimes as adults, we barely understand that. So we have to prepare them for it, not just physically, but also mentally, right? It also eliminates fears to some degree on their part because the fear of the unknown, not just for children, often can be very questionable. But when we have that assurance that this next step that we're going to take in life is going to help to guide us and propel us into that next phase of our lives, then it's going to be an easier process for them. And then the last thing is it will begin to attach independence to each and every one of them, and help them to face situations that come across their path on a daily basis. And as you know, in this day and age that we're living in, it's completely different than how things were way back when. It could be good, bad, or indifferent, but there's different phases of life, and it comes with different pieces of, what should I say? I'm not going to say it's been a smooth process from years ago because it has its own dynamics for all the right reasons. And that allows us to learn at different phases and different times. All right. So, what I'm going to do is basically speak with you tomorrow on just adolescence. I'm going to go into the adolescent phase because the phase that I just spoke on, where I gave you this dialogue, is basically between a parent and maybe a 6-year-old or a toddler, a younger child that's really trying to find their step in the world. So we'll talk about the adolescents tomorrow, and you'll learn some additional things as to how their mind work, their process as far as the whole decision making phase. So that's all I had for you this evening, guys. I do thank you for joining me. This is day, I believe, I'm losing track now, 467 or 57 or 47, one of those. But I thank you for your patience and moving with me through this process. If it has been of any assistance to you, I encourage you to share it with your family members and friends. You may have another family that has children and they're trying to understand this whole change that their children are going through, but may need a little bit of lift and step into that next phase. If you'd like to learn more about me, please feel free to log on to holisticwellbeing.com, and there you will find out why I am so passionate about what I do. But until then, I will see you back again here tomorrow for another fantastic tidbits on how to foster a family grounding process in your home with your children. Thank you so much for joining. Have a fantastic evening and morning, should I say, and I'll see you back again here tomorrow. Ciao.